Hello again. This is Back to Back, Episode 5, Part 1, where I will talk about section hiking versus through hiking, a topic that doesn't get that much attention, at least not that I'm aware of, in like the kind of backpacking community here on YouTube and elsewhere too. I mean, it's something that everybody's aware of, right? Like backpackers in general are, of course, well aware of what a section hiker is, what a through hiker is, but how do they relate to each other? I feel like there's some different angles to that I'd like to explore. And as such, in this kind of virtual conversation, I will be addressing this to a backpacker that, if you're watching this, you probably already know, you're subscribed to, etc. That's Stick from Stick's blog, Chad. Chad is a blogger and vlogger on backpacking and ultralight backpacking that I've been following for years now. I think he's a great, he contributes a lot of really great content out there on the subject. And for like, I don't know, I guess a few years now, we've been kind of going back and forth in some random correspondence, emailing a bit, and also I've influenced him with certain things. He's influenced me and many other people, of course, with certain things. So finally, I thought, I'll see if he wants to do a back-to-back. So I sent him an email, and this was months ago, and I said I was interested in doing it. He said he was, a bit busy, but he would be interested. And then I got busy, and I never got around to it. But then I emailed him somewhat recently, like a week or so ago, and he said he'd be game. That as soon as he got his trip reports up from his last trip, that he would see about doing a response. So here it is. Because we have some things in common in this discussion, like we're both section hikers. We've not done, at least not that I'm aware of with Stick, that he's not done like a through hike of a trail. But then again, what constitutes a through hike? That's also something that should also be, briefly discussed, because I mean there are shorter trails out there. I see people talking about, through hike of like, say, a trail that's only, I don't know, 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers. Like, are there limits to what, is length the quantifier here when it comes to a through hike? Just something to keep in mind. I'm not quite sure about the definition of through hike in general, but then again, that might be just language in general. I mean, that might be just a constraint of the the term. But what I wanted to focus on, like I said before, is things that Stick and I have in common. And forgive me for being scatterbrained, as I've apologized before. You'll notice this is not an edited video. My computer is still not good enough to handle editing. Hopefully in the future we'll get there. But there are challenges involved in both, obviously, and they both have their pros and cons. But what I see is that, and what I'll ask you, like Stick, do you see that there's like a divide, or like certain kind of how do you put it, like a differentiation between the two groups of backpackers? I've noticed, and this is really good timing, that Stick put up this trip report, and I watched the videos, great videos by the way, and you get to see on the Appalachian Trail when you bump into backpackers, you say, hey, are you through hikers? And they tell you their trail names and all that. And so I'm just curious, like, what your thoughts are on kind of this difference between being a section hiker, being a through hiker, right? For me, I mean, I'm in a unique situation. I don't really run into that many through hikers here, and the ones that I have bumped into here in Sweden, where I live, they've been very friendly, and I've even had a few tell me that they actually prefer section hiking to through hiking, which I thought was kind of strange too, considering like they thought like one in particular. There's one guy doing a big through hike of a big part of the E1 trails like system that I'm doing, and he said that he, in the end, after coming towards the end of his hike, that he would have preferred doing section hikes, which I thought was I appreciated his honesty on the subject, But yeah, rather than go into like the pros and the cons, what I wanted to explore is just like how are there different communities, and and how is it that people can be like one or the other, and what I mean by that too is what are like the practical limitations too for people that want to do a through hike. Uh, I would love to do a through hike. There are many trails, but big trails that I would like to do all at once. Spend 3 months on the trail. But obviously, there are things that prevent me from doing that. Family obligations, work obligations. You know, so these things, of course, are going to get in the way. I notice, of course, Stick has got kids and a job and all that. I'm guessing that's what prevents you too, and many other backpackers who would like to be through hikers but are kind of are have to resort to. I don't know if that's the right word to use, or are kind of left with section hiking. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I love section hiking. I love backpacking in general. But as I've said before in like a few other videos, if I won the lottery, the first thing I'd be planning would be a through hike. So my question to you, a Stick. Well, let me repeat first for clarity, for some cohesion here. Is do you think there's like a divide? Do you get a different kind of like sense or feel like kind of feeling of inclusion or not with section hiker versus through hiker? I'm just curious to pick your brain on that. You're around way more hikers than I am. I rarely actually see that many hikers. It's in the like on the in the summertime, like here in Sweden, when there's a lot more backpackers out and about, and that's when I'll bump into through hikers and all that. But anyway, that's question one. Question two, well, would you agree that there are things just holding you back from becoming a through hiker? Is that what's just in the way, these things in life that get in the way that prevent backpackers from just becoming through hikers, right? And also, would you become, like, if you won the lottery, if you had your druthers and could just be a through hiker, would you just go for it? And if so, which trail would you do? I'm guessing you'll say Appalachian Trail, maybe finish the Appalachian Trail, but I'm not sure. I'm curious to see what big trails you'd like to through hike. I personally, for a long time, I was very interested in doing a through hike of like the Triple Crown trails, the Pacific Crest Trail, Continental Divide, Appalachian Trail. I actually had wanted to do all three and get my Triple Crown and all that. But actually, now that I've been backpacking a lot more here in Sweden, I have to say that I'm much more interested in doing European trails, and I'm much more interested in finishing up like all these. I would love to do, for example, a through hike of some of the trails here in Sweden, some of the bigger trails in Sweden, and then the trails that are connected to Norway too, that go from Sweden to Norway, or go maybe I don't even know much about like the Finnish trail system. I know that they certainly have trails there, so I'd like to kind of explore more Scandinavian trails, and then there's trails in the Pyrenees and in the Alps I'd like to do. So that's what I would do if I were to do through hikes, spend like months up in the Alps in Switzerland and Austria. Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome. But final question. Gear, of course, you can't. Is it possible to do like a back-to-back or any like backpacking discussion without mentioning something about gear, right? What big three items would you take if you were going to do a through hike tomorrow? So based on your last question, when I asked like what through hike would you be interested in doing, on that through hike, what would be your big three? What would your shelter be, your sleep system be, and your backpack? I would say right now I'm most interested, I think because I've been reading some books lately with Switzerland in them, and they describe Switzerland very well. I recently reread Frankenstein for like the third time or so. I taught it too. I taught the book as well, so I know the book fairly well. And the descriptions of Switzerland I love, and I've been to Switzerland before. I really love it there. Beautiful place. So I'd like to do like a big, like month or two long through hike just around. I don't know much about the trails there. I would go and just find out, I suppose. But yeah, I would take my my Z-Packs Cuban tarp along with a net tent that I'm still waiting on. That's in the. I'm going to be doing a first impressions video soon on the net tent when I get it. That is given that I like it. I have a strong feeling I'm really going to like it, you know, but yeah, so, but if not, I guess a bivy, so a tarp bivy combo, I'm still, you know, a big fan of that, or a tarp and net tent combo. That would be my shelter. My sleep system would be Z-Packs 20 degree, and I'd probably, given that this is the Alps, higher altitude will be colder, go for my homemade sleeping bag. I've said in the past it's a liner, but I've actually been using it as a cover. I think it works better that way, to cover, have the down bag inside of the synthetic make your own gear bag that I have. So yeah, so I'd have my Z-Packs 20 bag with my synthetic over bag, if you will, then my Thermarest X Therm, and then for my backpack I would definitely go with Z-Packs Arc Blast, the 52 liter. So that would be my thru-hike big three if I were to do a thru-hike in several different trails that are on my bucket list. But okay, enough rambling from me. I'm looking forward to seeing what you say, Stick. Again, thanks for watching. Hope this is interesting to any of you, you know, you backpackers out there. Again, I thank you for your patience with my one-shot, one-take type videos. And yeah, goodbye.